We're up.
Good morning and welcome to everyone to our launch of the STEL eTool this morning. We're going to share a brief video for you on the standards for technological and engineering literacy, and then we will show you some slides and information for STEL resources as well as using the STEL eTool. So I'm going to turn it over to Executive Director Steve Barbado.
All righty. Thank you very much, Phil. I appreciate it. I'm actually going to start with, if I share the correct screen, I'm actually going to start with the slide first, just because of the ability to do the audio and video separate a little bit when we get into that video. So I'm going to share my screen. You should be seeing the slide straight up. Does that look right?
That is PowerPoint.
The working slide, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
the working document.
Sorry about that. So people are still coming in, so I'm just going to flip to that real quick, do that one and share. Now you should just be seeing the slide, right?
There you
Correct.
go.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you very much for joining us today. And the Standards for Technological and Engineering Literacy, the role of technology and engineering in STEM education, has obviously been a big project for ITEA and our profession for the last basically 3 years now. And launching it in July was a big moment. We've been trying to build resources on our website, and most recently, we had an app developer team provide services to help us with this app that we're now calling the STEL eTool. So we're going to introduce that. And with that, I'm going to provide a little bit of a background of where these resources are and how you get to them. So when you go to the ITEA website and you click on the STEL, Standards for Technological and Engineering Literacy resources, you'll see our page, you'll see that there's 4 tabs there with the overview, the STEL resources tab, the summary references, and then the STEL lesson plan tool. So we'll be adding to this the STEL eTool as a separate component. There'll be a button there for that. So that'll probably be done sometime next week. But right now you have the link to it on this page, and we can show you how all this works. So on the page, we have the click to the STEL download, and that's free. We have the access to the lesson plan tool. We have the resources tab, and then we have the eTool. And if you want to grab this, this will be available to grab afterward, or you can take a screenshot of that right now and use your mobile device to scan that and access the eTool as well. So Phil, before we go into this slide, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'm going to pull up the video. And give me 1 second. Just going to stop that. Going to share. Screen 1 and share. Whoops. Hold on. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
You guys, yes? I have to stop sharing again, though, because I forgot to do the sound and audio thing. Sorry. I got the correct screen, but I didn't do the sound and video, which is important when you play this. There it is. Okay. Welcome to the Standards for Technological and Engineering Literacy, the role of technology and engineering in STEM education. This presentation allows you to scan the free download for the STEL, as well as a presentation on unpacking STEL. Additionally, a slideshow will move forward to the next slide, and a video will play that describes the STEL graphic organizer that you see on the screen on the right. We hope that you are able to access all of our resources continually on the iteea.org website and use the STEL website page for all of those resources. We look forward to you implementing the STEL across all the country. Thank you.
This presentation explains the organizing structure of the standards for technological and engineering literacy. STEL utilizes 3 organizers that work together as a framework for teaching technology and engineering within a STEM program or class. These include the core disciplinary standards, technology and engineering practices, and technology and engineering contexts. The 8 STEL core disciplinary standards guide students to the big ideas and central understandings of the fields of technology and engineering and the T&E in STEM education. The core standards also identify the relationship between technology, engineering, and other fields of study, as well as technology and engineering in a broader context. The 8 core disciplinary standards and their associated grade level benchmarks encompass 3 types: what students should know and understand about technology and engineering, what they should be able to do, and their attitudes towards technology and engineering. The core disciplinary standards represent the information, ideas, and processes all students should know and be able to do regardless of their eventual academic pursuit or career destination. Specific to technology and engineering, they are to be used within the context. The second organizer within the STEL standards are technology and engineering practices. These practices were adapted from the 21st century skills and from the research on engineering habits of mind. These practices are student-centered, reflecting the knowledge, skills, and dispositions students need in order to successfully apply the core disciplinary standards in different context areas. Practices are intentionally used in a variety of contexts, providing educators with opportunities to incorporate authentic and real-world expectations into lessons, activities, and other learning experiences to mimic work and life outside the classroom. The core disciplinary standards represent information, ideas, and processes that are common to all context areas. Practices describe universal practices and dispositions that can be applied in both the core standards and contexts. These organizers separate technology and engineering from other disciplines. They provide the foundation of technology and engineering literacy. The final organizer within the STEL are the contexts. Technology and engineering classroom and laboratories vary depending on the state, district, region, province, or country in which programs are located. Therefore, contexts are not course titles. Rather, they group together 8 areas that broadly represent the breadth of technology activity. They can be thought of as areas that organize the content to be studied. The contexts allow for future development of technology. They allow for state and international strengths and are flexible enough to be used in a variety of educational settings. STEL utilizes 3 distinct organizers that work together to provide students with a balanced STEM education. The core disciplinary standards and practices can be applied in any or all of the context areas. These organizers are the foundation for developing and delivering STEL lessons.
Thank you. I'm going to switch real quick back to our presentation. And I'm going to reshare my screen. Okay. Phil, I think you're up.
All right, thank you. So we have some screenshots I'm going to walk you through and explain the different aspects of the eTool. So this is, as the note mentions, from my laptop. So you can see here that it automatically starts with STEL 1, and then it has room on my screen to display the first 3 benchmarks. If you're using a mobile device, you would likely just see, 1 benchmark displayed because of the size of the screen. So you can access this through your computer, your tablet, mobile device. It's very flexible as far as the platform, and the display will adjust to whatever device you're using. So in the red oval here, I've highlighted the 3 areas that you can access information on STEL. So the first one on the left, you can search by typing in a benchmark. If you know it, you can type in a keyword or a phrase, and you'll see results as you're typing in the phrase that'll pop up in real time. So that is probably the primary way that a lot of teachers would use this tool. The middle search field lists the actual 8 standards that Anna just highlighted in the video. And then on the right are the grade bands that you can search. So grade bands are pre-K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. So that gives users, whether they're developing curriculum or lesson plans, flexibility on how they search for information. We wanted to give them as many options as possible. Okay, next slide, please. So down at the bottom, when you get your search results, you will notice that there will be a view button for each result that you have. And you can just click on that, and then it will expand to open up those results. Next slide, please. So you can see the result gets displayed over top of the search, which makes it handy, because if this is not what you were looking for, for example, if you get multiple responses from your search and the first one you look at is not what you were looking for, you can just click the little X in the top right to close that one, and it will default and go back to your results from your search. So I want to point out a couple of things in this pop-up box from my search. You notice up at the top, it has the benchmark. The nice thing is it also has the alphanumeric code. So this one is 1C. So it's very intuitive. It tells me that that's, standard 1. And it's on the nature and characteristics of technology and engineering. And this is benchmark C. The next line shows the grade band, pre-K through 2, and it gives that description exactly as it is from STEL, the document. Now, all of these fields you can copy and paste. So if you're working on a curriculum or lesson plan, you can copy what you need and transfer it to your word processing program, your presentation software, whatever you're working on. The 4th field is the crosswalks to other standards. So you can see for this finding, there are connections to NGSS as well as the Common Core state standards for English language arts. Now, I'm happy to announce that Dr. Loveland, who has been heading these crosswalks, he and his research team just finished crosswalks to the NAEP TEL, the Technological and Engineering Literacy Assessment, as well as ISTE, the Instructional technology standards. So those have already been added. There's a document on the resource page of our website for those crosswalks. They will be added to the eTool shortly. And then the last field here you can see are the practices for pre-K through 2. So it lists those 8 practices that were highlighted in the video, and these are the appropriate ones for the pre-K through 2 level. Next slide, please. So this is a table from chapter 4 in the STEL document, the chapter that highlights those practices. So I just wanted to show you how these practices are scaffolded. So as you look at these, they grow more complex from pre-K all the way through high school. And this is what's great about the STEL eTool. When you pull up a finding like the last screen had, it has the appropriate practices for that grade band. So that way the teacher doesn't have to go and find additional information. They have the appropriate level that they should be addressing. And remember, we want all students to study all 8 standards and all 8 practices. So this is a key thing in the eTool, that all of the benchmarks and all of the appropriate practices are in that tool for you. Next slide, please. So I want to take a minute and congratulate our developers, Chu-Chun Tsai, Robert McClellan, and Matthew Schwartz. And I believe I saw in the participant list that Chu-Chun and Matthew are here. Chu-Chun was our project leader. He contacted us, was excited to do this, and he got Robert and Matthew to work with them on this. So I want to ask Chu-Chun if you would like to say anything about your baby here that we're highlighting today.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, ITEA, and appreciate all the just the guidance that the team provided. Steve Barbados, invaluable bring on the team. And thanks to Phil, Dr. Loveland, providing all the technical aspects for the information curriculum, and just all the people that put together the STEL, the benchmarks, and organizing in a way. To be honest, this was amazing simply because the content was so amazing. So when I saw it, I just wanted to put it in a way so that teachers can easily access it. So as Phil mentioned, that the point is that the data is searchable. You can take the information and copy and paste it into your lesson plans. We wanted the practices to be right there at your fingertips. So you want to, if you're talking to a student, and I'm pretty sure at this point technology, cell phones are welcome, but a teacher can search right to the practices, engage students, and give them an idea right at the spot instead of having to run back to their desk and look for information in the textbook. Teachers can find grade level specific activities and basically have that discussion very quick. It's basically a just-in-time tool. And so just wanted to also point out, Phil came up with the idea to call this the eTool because it's a very versatile tool. It's not just a simple application, a database. It's more than that. So moving forward, I hope everybody gives feedback to ITEA because I want to see this tool grow into something that really reaches out and helps ITEA and the tech ed community, technology engineering community in the future. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chu-Chun. We are just impressed with how quickly you guys put this together and how functional it truly is. So there's elegance in the design for sure. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to Steve and also Tom Loveland and Marie Hopeful, who were the PIs on the STEL project.
So if I could say a few words, Chuchan, when in August of 2019, when the group got together to really put the plan into action, we had a vision, but we had really no actual visual component in our mind's eye of actually how this tool might be pulled off. And we knew it was going to be critical, but we had some thoughts, but we didn't know how we were going to work with it. So I've got to say that Chuchan and Robert and Matthew, we owe a debt of gratitude to you. And I also want to give a shout out for that STEL graphic organizer video to Anna Sumner. Anna was part of the writing leadership team. We had 8 writing leaders, and she was one of those, and she's been very active all the way through. And we appreciate her for putting that video together. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom and Marie.
Steve, thank you. And if you don't mind, Tom, I'm going to jump in because I really only have a few words. And, you know, when the STEL project was envisioned back in 2018 and then officially launched in August of 2019, I don't think any of us really understood how this project was going to go. And it's through the dedicated involvement of so many people that we were able to publish a document that I feel is a powerful tool for our field, something that I personally feel proud of, but also proud on behalf of our technology and engineering education community. And I just, I look at this and I see the efforts of so many people that have gone into this. Always the goal was to make this a powerful, usable guide and tool for educators across the pre-K-12 spectrum and around the globe, really. And every step of the way, we just get closer to the reality that I think we envisioned way back in 2018. So thank you to everybody. It truly did take a village, and a very big village at that, but this is an amazing, amazing. I'm almost in tears, like looking at every step of the way, and thank you.
Marie, I think part of the almost in tears is that you're not going to be in 3 video teleconferences a week like we were for months on end to make this all work through, but it was literally a lot of people that got involved in this. And I attended the session with Trina and Patricia the other day, who were part of the Chinsegat team from the math area and the science area. And one of the things that they were talking about during the session was they felt like one of the most powerful things about that meeting at Chinsegat was how well everybody rolled up their sleeves and worked for a common purpose. There weren't, as they said, there weren't like giant egos that were blocking things or putting up roadblocks. Everybody said, okay, and so the original ideas that were coming up about what we were going to do based on that survey from 2018, that changed over time because of the research that was being done and the good ideas that were coming in from a collaborative group of leaders. And I want to thank the STEL leader team and all the reviewers that chimed in or helped in on the rewriting of the standards. And I feel very strongly that the final document is something that's going to stand the test of time. But that was really just the first part of it. The next part of it really came down to implementation and dissemination out across the country and also across the world, which I was really excited about. So we did apply for and got a supplemental funding from NSF, which helped to pay for some of this, the eTool work and some of the other things. It's just a lot of work that went into it. And as Marie said and Steve said, when we were together in Chinsegat, we knew that we wanted to have a final document, and we had started to talk about, okay, what was going to be the steps after that to implement it and get it out in the hands of teachers and have the acceptance that we were hoping to get from it. So I think that since the publication of it almost a year ago, there's been a lot of work from other leaders in the field, not just from the original 3 or 4, that made all these things happen. And you can see some of the articles that have been coming out in TET that have been very helpful towards getting the word out about it. I think that I have some of my graduate students that have been working on getting more benchmark matches out there that are going to be useful to teachers. So I think that's the part that excites me, is the application of the standards that's being provided to the teachers and curriculum development people and the districts across the country. That's always the thing that's most important to me, is the application side of things. How are people going to be able to take this and actually be able to make use of it, not have it just be this theoretical document that they have to get through, but it's actually a living, breathing document that's going to help them in their work as a teacher. So I'm just really happy about how things have turned out, and these kind of tools that are out there that teachers are going to have access to, I think are going to be very helpful to them. They can just copy and paste it right into their lesson plans. That was one of the things that we had talked about from the very beginning, was how is this going to impact the classroom teachers? So I think you can see I'm very excited about where we're at right now. And so I guess back to Steve.
Sure. Appreciate your comments and your leadership. The blood, sweat, and tears that went into this, and some laughter along the way, was phenomenal. Tom and Marie and Phil, you guys are great leaders on this. I'd like to open it up, Phil, if you're all right with this, to just the audience and try to have a discussion and answer questions. I just posted a link to the PDF there of the PowerPoint if anybody wants it. If you need the video file, we'll be sharing that on the website very shortly. So it's open to the audience.
Questions, please.
Just looking at the chat, there's a lot of good conversation in there.
One question I see is, sort of next steps. And I think it's worth saying that as people use the standards and really dig in more deeply to them, any feedback people have or suggestions for implementation, dissemination, improvement, I know that everybody at ITEEA will be happy for input and feedback. But yeah, the next steps. Phil, I don't know if you or Steve want to say anything about that.
I can quickly comment. I know we worked very hard, our STEM Center for Teaching and Learning folks, Darcy Jones and Ryan Nowitzki, worked really hard to try to put this lesson plan tool together, and it is very comprehensive. There's a short video clip on it on how to do it, and well, it's about 28 minutes, it's not that short, but it's got a lot of good details to it. But take a look at it. It uses a SurveyMonkey tool, and then it comes in, and the great thing about it is it ends up looking pretty decent. So there's examples down here in PDF and Word that you can use and take a look at, and this is the end result of using that tool. So if you have teachers that want to develop lesson plans, they can. And now with the eTool there, so when you're able to grab it, so if we were to put in, for instance, energy, and I'm winging it right now. So we'll just do all standards, and let's say we do grade 6 to 8, and we hit 6 to 8, and we've basically got that down there. And then if we want to view this, we can. And in terms of working with a lesson plan format in your institution, your school or higher ed university, you can take this, copy it, and move it right into a Word document or a PDF very easily. So you can, let me pull up Microsoft Word here.
Steve and Phil, I want to attest to the fact of the ease of this. Remember when we sent out the directors, the Bud letter, I was able to use this with 3 practicum students, and they're true believers because it is so easy to use. They like the idea that you could go in and put keywords in and align things with the work that they're trying to do. So this is a masterpiece. It is really, really a nice piece of work. And now that it is almost fully developed, it's going to be a great tool for everybody.
I'm glad Steve pulled up the website to show how many resources are there, because if you think about it, this year with the pandemic, how much we have accomplished just with the STEL. We published the document, we've created an eTool, a lesson planning tool, presentations, we've had seminars, the crosswalks to 5 standards. It's just absolutely amazing. And it goes to that collaboration that Tom was talking about. And those of you that don't know, Trina is the president of NCTM and Patricia Simmons is past president of NSTA. So we had tremendous collaboration from those organizations, from industry partners. So please look at these resources. And as Marie said, give us feedback on what we can improve and how we can continue to market this.
It should be a dynamic process as we're moving forward. I noticed yesterday, in fact, I received an email from NSTA Learning about the next gen science standards and some of the new tools and publications they're developing. And that was released in 2014. So we're talking 8 years ago or 7 years ago, and it's still in developing new tools and ways to connect, which is pretty interesting. So hopefully.
Speaking of new tools, I see a question that about Addendum Books for STEL. And I will just mention, I know that's part of the longer term plan for ITEEA, but we have recently approved a Council on Technology and Engineering Teacher Education yearbook concept proposal that will focus on implementation of standards-based programs. So there'll be chapters in there for elementary, middle and high school programs, for teacher education programs, and more. So something to look forward to down the road, in addition to all the other stuff planned.
There's a question in the chat from Joel about accessing the eTool. Right now, you want to either scan this or you want to grab this. With the conference coming up this week, we only had this done by the end of last week, really ready to go. And Phil and I put the presentation together, but the bottom line is that GitHub tool, eTool, is not embedded yet on the website, but it will be next week. So it'll be there next week. But right now, you can grab it with that link right there.
There's also a question from Susan, I think, about whether the submitted lesson plans are being reviewed and how they're classified.
Yep. Yes. So our STEM Center then is using themselves and the National Teacher Effectiveness Coach team to review the different lessons at the different grade levels. So our elementary NTECs, National Teacher Effectiveness Coaches, are helping with looking at the elementary ones. The secondary ones are done by the secondary NTECs, along with Ryan and Darcy, to fit and connect. And then they have to touch it up a little bit with the tool as it comes in. So for it to look perfect, so that it gives them an opportunity to review it, touch it up, and then put it into that mode to post on that lesson plan side. And this video explains most of that. It's 19 minutes, that video. If any of you would like a presentation specifically for your state associations or your groups in your region, your state, we'll be glad to do that. The one that you see up there on the screen right now was actually an outtake from the New Jersey Technology and Engineering Educator Association presentation we did last month. We'll be glad to do that.
Yeah, with back to, just some general marketing things. We have had, for example, our Council on Technology and Engineering Teacher Education wrote a letter to Educational Testing Service about helping to update the praxis for technology teachers to reflect STEL, and they received a very supportive response that they would like the assistance of our council and ITEEA to update that. They're also looking to contact EdTPA because some states use that for their assessment. So one of the things we're trying to do is to get our councils, committees, and task forces to make those kinds of connections. And that'll be certainly a discussion Saturday for the board at the post-conference board meeting is, you know, how can we align our strategic plan and our, you know, various groups to help with the STEL rollout and making those connections, because this is more than just about introducing standards to practitioners. You know, there is a clear vision in STEL for the field. And we need to let people like the National Assessment Governing Board know what that new vision is for our field. So if you have ideas, or if you're working with a task force or a committee or a council, please make STEL a focus as far as outreach goes.
Susan, you've asked a couple questions in here, and not quite sure I know exactly how to answer them. So I'm going to try to interpret what I think it should be, but redirect me if not. So, oh, I know. Okay, you're listed as Vice President of Educational, or I guess Digital.
Engineering, yeah, the Engineering Association for Georgia. And so I will make sure that our next board meeting that I will show that, you know, show them as well.
So you're asking some great questions about the lesson plan tool, and it's still in the development phases. If you want to meet with our team with that, I would really appreciate it. I think it would work out really well if we followed up after the conference on things about how that eTool can combine with it. I know a distant goal right now we have, hopefully not too distant, is to incorporate the lesson plan tool directly into the eTool. But that's going to take more planning and programming. But we'd love to work with you.
Well, that's perfect. I was just kind of looking forward. And that's what I was kind of wondering. I love the way it is right now. It's really great to get quick access, and with the versatility that everybody has to be based on where they're at and located, and not specific resources. And you have to read a whole bunch of junk to get to know whether or not, well, I can't use that right now. So this is a really nice way to know, oh, you know what? I could probably work with some of those ideas that I have right there. Boom, I can use that. So I think it's great to be able to do that, especially for new teachers that are just coming in and they've got so much stuff slammed at them that they don't have the opportunity to go through and read papers and papers and papers about lesson plans. This is a great way to get to the meat of the issue.
Yeah. So Phil, do you want to mention about how the STEL can be used? Not, you know, with those contexts. I was thinking of the NICE group and how they don't want to develop their own standards. They want to use our tool and our process within our standards to do that. We've been working with them.
Sure. NICE is the National, and I'm going to get the acronym wrong.
Cybersecurity.
It's
National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education.
Thank you. Thank you. So Steve and I have done a piece for their newsletter and had several meetings with them. They are looking at using STEL to help address cybersecurity as well as other sets of standards. And they have a clear stance that there are so many sets of standards out there now that help with the cybersecurity effort that they don't want to develop a separate set of cybersecurity standards. So they're working to do a crosswalk with the STEL standards as well as other standards such as ISTE and probably the mathematics Common Core standards. And so we will be reviewing their draft of that crosswalk as well. So that's just another example of the outreach that we're doing there.
And just to add on to that, I think Anna Sumner in that video that we showed at the beginning just nailed it right perfectly about how to describe these 8 core standards connected with each of these practices, the engineering habits of mind and the making and doing component, and then making sure that it can fit into any context. And that NICE initiative is just one great example. We were able to find, and Tom Loveland helped us with this, a variety of connections directly to their frameworks immediately with our standards.
Yeah, those contexts are very flexible. When you read about the standards, and this has come up in a couple of conference sessions where people are saying, you know, we want to focus on job preparation in my state. A lot of states have technology and engineering education under career and technical education. Some have it with other secondary, subject areas like mathematics. So STEL is designed to be flexible for the different country and state models that offer technology and engineering education. So as you heard in the video, it's not intended that these contexts be classes. For example, a class on transportation and logistics. However, if that's a state model, then by all means, STEL can help those curriculum developers in that state develop a course on transportation and logistics. We just want to make sure that all 8 standards and all 8 practices are covered through these various contexts.
And at the risk of sort of beating what might be a dying horse, but I think it's worth emphasizing that it was very intentional in development of STEL that we didn't try to tell people that you have to address all of these contexts. There's this recognition that in order to make this as universal as possible, while still getting at the core of what we mean when we talk about technological and engineering literacy, in a way, the context doesn't matter. We know that the contexts provide rich surroundings in which to apply the standards and the practices, but again, I'm probably just saying what doesn't need to be said again, but I think it's really important for people to get that about the standards. The other thing, of course, is that those benchmarks that are embedded within the standards really do allow teachers and students to apply these practices and these ideas in increasingly sophisticated ways and to be revisiting them. So, hopefully over the course of a student's pre-K-12, if they're lucky enough to get something at the elementary level, they've seen and used and engaged in these practices and with these ideas multiple times in multiple ways in many contexts.
I did put the link to the video in the chat if anybody wants to download it.
And that spinning diagram, that's a good hypnosis tool too.
So we're hoping to see, go ahead.
Sorry to jump on again. If you have any questions, about the app, feel free to send it over to me in chat. I'll try to respond to all of them. But I did want to mention, I had to jump off for another meeting call. First of all, thank you, ITA, for this opportunity. I do want to mention about Robbie and Matt on the team. They were invaluable. As Phil mentioned earlier, that I might have came to ITA with the idea, but essentially Robbie, he's a full stack developer. He definitely just came up with the great amount of the design that you're thinking of right here in the front end, and laid it out for me to see, just to show me that the technology is there. So it's one of those things, technology is there, why aren't we doing it? And then Matt was invaluable in designing the framework on the back end. So people who do app development, the back end, the front end, those are key parts to the success of this design. And why I'm mentioning that is because the success of the STEL program, why it came together so easily, is not just because of the teachers, putting together all the research, but honestly, it's so easy to understand. I think, as somebody mentioned earlier, is that this is easy. It's actually that easy. But in terms of presentation, with the technology that's available out there, putting together a database, Robbie just took it, ran with it. Matt designed just a framework of how these databases would link together. And again, as you think about the tools in the futures for teachers, think about how to organize it. I know everybody in different states have, different types of initiatives, but how do you categorize it, bring that large picture, nationwide, and then putting it into a way that it's easy to search, and you can build all of that into this application or similar applications. And I think in terms of just the future of applications and of as what ITA is thinking about, whether it's lesson plans or putting it into finding resources, teachers within the state and at the national level. I would just say that this is just the beginning. I think that's the best way for me to explain it, or at least that's how I feel in my gut level. And then for folks that are wondering, where I came from, just out of the blue, I was part of ITEA, former high school teacher for 10 plus years before joining the private sector, and then currently I'm at FINRA, which is a nonprofit investor firm, where we basically use tons and tons of data to understand how stock markets work and whatnot. So, jumping from the classroom environment to the private sector, or actually the public sector of some kind, I've learned so much, both from what I've done in the classroom, and then now what I'm doing in the private area. And this is how I thought I could basically give back. So this is, I hope that this just keeps going, meaning the eTools and the applications just keeps developing, because I went through so many of the courses this week, or this presentations this week, and I just see how much creativity is there, but how do we bring them all together? And I think ITEA has definitely tackled that. When I talk to Steve, that's what Steve talks about, is how to bring all that creativity into a platform where everybody can share and grow from. And so, yeah, myself, Robbie, Matt, we're so happy to be part of this project. And then really important, in the upper right corner, contact. You can always reach us. Our LinkedIn information is there, and link back to ITA webpage. I know that as I was mentioned before, this is still in a kind of a standalone environment. It's not been all fully integrated with the ITA webpage, but there's a link directly to the STEL resources, and then email for ITA. That's all there as well. So definitely, please, communicate, tell us what you need, and actually tell Steve what you need, and Steve will figure out how to make it all happen. But I'm so happy to be able to part of bringing this app to fruition for y'all.
Amazing, Chuchun, Matt, and Robbie. We appreciate it. Amazing. We're going to have to wrap it up now. Phil, do you want to have any last words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for the great discussion and the input. And as Chuchun just said, please keep the ideas coming and let us know how we can improve this. And again, I want to thank Robbie, and Matthew for this great tool. So thank you all, and I hope you have a great day at the conference today.
And don't forget at 11 o'clock is the Program Excellence Awards, where you see a lot of the schools and their teams sharing their creativity and projects. So see you there. Take care.